So I want to thank everyone for joining us for today's Lunch and Learn with guest speaker and Richard, who I actually had the pleasure of graduating the same class of 2021 from Champlain. And today we'll be talking about navigating the world of work, collaborating intergenerationally, and creating a culture of belonging. That was a mouthful. Just a little bit of what we're going to be covering today. So very brief introduction, a little bit about Ange, and then Ange will be taking it off with the presentation, diving deep into this content, and we will have time at the end for a Q&A. Just a reminder that with the webinars, chat isn't able to be used. We use the Q&A box. Feel free to use the Q&A box, sort of like the chat box as well. You'll be able to comment on other people's questions, upvote, and you can drop a comment, a question, anything you want into that Q&A box. And then we will, like I said, if you have questions throughout, feel free to drop those in there and we'll make sure to get to those and as many as we can when we have the Q&A section at the end. I think that is all for the agenda, just making sure everything's set. Perfect. Okay. And then we'll kick off with a little bit about our speaker. Like I mentioned, Ange Richard, who is the Assistant Director of Career Education at Boston University's Center for Career Development and is a Bachelor alumni of Champlain College. As soon as we started this program, I knew I had to reach out to her because I have seen her all over LinkedIn and kind of watched her journey in taking the career professional development industry by storm, and really has an incredible perspective as a Gen Z for Gen Z in navigating this professional landscape. So I'm really excited to have her joining us today and bringing some of the knowledge and tools that she's developed and learned across her own journey and sharing that with us. Personally, as a young professional who is, looking to find my own place and how I show up best, how I can be considerate, most supportive, most effective, and still be myself in the workplace is something I'm constantly thinking about. So I'm excited to kind of dive into that topic today. Ange has been a LinkedIn top voice, TEDx speaker, is an incoming PhD student, and underlying just strives to foster a sense of belonging wherever she goes. So I will, without further ado, kind of hand it off to Ange to take us away.
Thank you so much, Brianna. I am so excited to be here with folks today, and I was so delighted when Brianna reached out to me and invited me to be able to be in community with Champlain alums, staff, and faculty members. I am really so excited to be chatting with y'all today about a topic that is incredibly important to me and that I know is really important to all of y'all on this call as well. And so with that, I will share my screen and get us going here. Let me get us in presentation mode. Okay. And so, as Brianna said, this presentation is all about navigating the world of work, collaborating intergenerationally, and creating a culture of belonging. This is a topic that is absolutely near and dear to my values, to my praxis as a career educator, but just as a young professional in the world of work. And again, I am so excited to be with y'all today and to chat about this. I hope you have your lunch. I hope you have a cup of tea. I hope you have a nice beverage with you. And I thought it would be really, really fun. I know this is webinar format, but as Brianna said, we can use the Q&A feature to be able to communicate with each other. If folks could share their favorite accessory to wear to work in the Q&A feature. This is one of my favorite ways to get to learn about people, to get to learn about the community that I'm with, and I'm really excited to see the accessories that folks add and that are your favorite to wear to work. I will wait for some of those responses to come in. April says scarves and earrings. Yes, love it. I have a coworker who wears scarves day in and day out, and I helped her pin hers the other day. So those are awesome. What else? What do folks like to show up with? Bracelets and necklaces. I love that, Danella. Oh my goodness. That brings me back to when I used to work with preschoolers in Burlington. That was kind of where I started my career, and I used to wear a lot of fun earrings, and boy, did they love it. That is wonderful. What else do folks bring in to work with them? Carrie says a watch that was a meaningful and special gift. I think that those pieces that have a lot of meaning behind them for us are so special and awesome to be able to bring into the workplace. I love that, Carrie. Thank you for sharing. Pat also says a wristwatch reminds me to focus on the present and the student sitting in the chair in my office and not relying on digital technology. That is an excellent tip, Pat, for when working with people, really being in the moment and making sure that we are indebted to that conversation and that time and not distracted by tech. I have a similar trick. I have a clock in my office that is opposite me and that the student or person sitting with me cannot see. So it helps me be mindful, but it's also not a pressure to them to wrap up their conversation and we can go at our own pace. I love this. Thank you, folks, for sharing some ideas in the chat. I hope others maybe took some inspiration from this. My favorite accessory to wear to work, although I'm not wearing them today, are rings. I love rings. I think it's because I'm working from home. I don't tend to get as I'd say presentable or what I would wear to the office when I'm at home, but rings are my absolute favorite. And so I love that these ideas have joined us in the Q&A here. Thank you for participating in that. A little bit more about me. Brianna did such a great job introducing me, and she really hit all the core things, but I figured I would add a few other pieces of info. So I graduated from Champlain in May of 2021, so literally just hit 3 years ago. I got a lot of memories on Facebook and in my photo libraries of this happened 3 years ago. So I graduated, like I said, 2021 with a Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood and Elementary Education. My first job out of Champlain was as a 5th through 8th grade math interventionist at Berrytown Middle and Elementary School. Given my student teaching experience, which was in a math classroom for 5th and 6th graders, it was a very natural flow and fit for me. But I knew deep down that teaching at the elementary or middle K-12 level was probably not where my career was going to stay. And so with that, I started pursuing my Master of Education at Boston University in July of 2021, so barely out of Champlain. I went to BU, started pursuing my master in higher education while still working at Berrytown. In early January of 2022, I received a job offer from BU, which is where I'm still at today, to work in their career services office, which felt very full circle, very, very meaningful, given that I worked in the career collaborative at Champlain. So higher ed has always been a really core place for me, a place of development, of growth, of something that has really shaped me into who I am today and that I consider myself very indebted to. So I live within higher ed, and I will be pursuing my PhD at Boston College this fall, focusing on higher education, sense of belonging, population-specific institutions. That's kind of about me educationally. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I will share ways to stay connected with me toward the end of this presentation, but I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit. I'm featured in several places. I try to have as many collaborations with nonprofits and service-driven workspaces as possible. So that's a little bit about me. And again, so excited to be here with y'all today, chatting about sense of belonging, creating that culture of belonging at work, and working intergenerationally, because it's a fact, it's a reality, and we're not going anywhere. So very excited to dive in today. So a little bit about our agenda here. We'll first talk about building your best professional self and some tools that I use and have used in the past to help define what that professional self looks like for me. We'll also talk about creating really strong workplace relationships, fostering inclusive spaces and working intergenerationally, and just transitioning to the world of work. If there are any young alums here in the chat, any folks who work with current students or young alumni or have a friend that you could share this info with, I'm really excited to talk about that today. And we'll also have space for Q&A and conversation. And as any ideas or thoughts, questions, comments come up, please contribute them to the Q&A, and Brianna and I will dissect them as we get toward the end of the presentation. So please share your thoughts, please share your reactions. I will be asking folks to engage throughout this, so keep that in mind. And I thought it would be really nice to start with thinking about our values and what's really important to us, to you on this call. When I think about developing a professional self, right, being a competent professional, feeling skilled, excelling in a workplace or excelling in a work environment, it really boils down to our skills, our values, our interests, and our personality. And so when we think about showing up as our best professional self, we're probably thinking about, well, what is most important for me to be gaining out of professional experiences? So I thought it would be nice to kind of think about, well, what is something I really value the most? What is most important to me when it comes to a workplace, when it comes to an opportunity, when I'm considering an option for a career, if I have 2 job offers on the table, what thing needs to be offered there that's going to make me be able to make that decision, that's going to excite me? So if we could again go into the Q&A and just share what is most important to you when it comes to a job and a workplace. Is it communication? Does there need to be really important communication on your team? Opportunities for growth. Is that what's really important to you? Professional development, opportunities to develop your skill sets, to grow in who you are as that competent professional, both in that workplace for that employer and far beyond. Is it the culture and the workplace relationships? Is that what's most meaningful? Is it the working conditions, right? Is there a flexible option? Is there hybrid work? Is it fully remote? Compensation and benefits, right? There's no denying that that is a really important factor for so many of us when it comes to the work that we do. Or is it something else entirely? What is most important to you? Oops. Trying to open our Q&A here. Pat says culture and workplace relationships are #1, as well as integrity of the organization. Thank you for sharing that, Pat. I also am someone who is very, very fond of needing those strong workplace relationships. Mark says all of the above, but if I had to choose just one, culture and workplace relationships are most meaningful, and communication is also on that same level. Fabulous. So culture is really, really important to this group here. And I think that that speaks to the growing diversity of the folks that we're working with, needing a really warm environment to be able to do our work successfully, professionally, at a really, appropriate level, not overworked, not underworking, being productive. April says culture and workplace relationships and communication as well. Danella says feeling valued. Absolutely. My work is recognized 100%, right? Your unique value and what you bring to the workplace is so, so important and helps us feel really satisfied at the jobs that we do have. Carrie saying team dynamics and community and that environment of trust. Absolutely. A priority is flexibility, and the trust goes with that. 100%, Carrie. I could not agree more, right? That trusting relationship between supervisor and supervisee, among colleagues, people you're working with on a daily basis, is so critical, and really brings back the humanity to working with others, connecting with others, and doing meaningful work. Someone has an interview today. Good luck. I'm sure you're going to do fabulous. Most important to me is opportunities for growth and professional development. Absolutely. The thing that I'm telling my students, especially my seniors who have just graduated, often is if there's no opportunity or space for you to see clear advancement at that company, for you to grow in your skill sets, for you to continue to develop as a young, eager, energized professional, I would highly consider other options. I might not take that job. I totally agree with you that those opportunities for growth are key. And then culture, benefits, values, goal setting, and communication. Yes, Yolanda, I couldn't agree more, right? So all of these values that we might put into a workplace are really, really important. They mean something to each of us, and it's really nice to be able to center on those as we go about finding a workplace that enforces a culture of belonging that is acceptable for a lot of employees, but that also meets our needs as individual professionals. So thanks for reflecting on that with me. I really appreciate that. And continuing on that theme of self-reflection, this is something that is very, very fundamental to developing your professional self. We're often told that, there might be outside opinions on how we should be growing and developing. Our network might have insight on how we should go about, securing a new promotion or considering a new opportunity. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to our own self-awareness, our own self-assessment, and revisiting these kinds of self-reflection questions on a regular basis. Something that my current supervisor did when she first started supervising the team that I'm on was introducing the ways and styles that she works and providing us, our team, with a document to be able to share those styles as well. We got to reflect on our career goals with her. We were able to chat candidly about, this is my pet peeve in the workplace. This is something that I really value. We were able to talk about greatest strengths, areas for growth, enhancing professional opportunities and connections, sharing about PD, you name it. And so self-reflection is really pivotal to helping grow in your professional self, and is something that I try to do on a 3 to 6 month basis. It can be really hard to embed this time into our workday, outside of our workday even, to be able to self-assess and reflect. But I would try to do it in those time frames because likely changes have happened at your job. Maybe you've achieved something new. Maybe there's a new measure of success that you can think about, or an area for growth that's really popped up for you and developed. Self-reflection can really, really help with that. So I hope you take some inspiration from these questions. I particularly like, especially as we continue to think about career growth and personal and professional growth, what motivates me professionally, and how can I ensure that I stay passionate and engaged in my work? That one has been something that helped me decide, what? It is time for me to go for my PhD and to try that route. And maybe that can be something that you think about today. So developing our professional self, right? I wanted to include this image over here of the skills that employers are seeking. Some folks might be familiar with what this image is depicting. And for those who aren't, these are the NACE career readiness competencies. So these are from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And so together with employers and career services, NACE has released these skill sets that employers are seeking in the talent that they're hiring. This is particularly mostly geared toward early career talent, but I'd say it spans our entire intergenerational workforce. So when it comes to developing your professional self, you want to analyze your goals, your values, skill sets, and your contributions to your profession, right? We want to be thinking about, why does my team or this new opportunity need me? What do I bring to the table? What is my important value add? It's also really important as we think about ourselves to grow our support and our challenge networks. The concept of a challenge network was introduced to me last year, and it was something that I didn't know that I needed, but once I had it and once I started engaging with it, was so incredibly valuable to me. And essentially, a challenge network is a group of people or someone in your circle who can challenge you, who can be critical of you with love and support, right? This person can maybe push back on an idea that you have, can question you, can help you think a little bit more deeply or broadly or with a different perspective, but still showing you support and knowing that they're in your corner, that they're a trusted part of your network and your circle. So support is fabulous, but having that voice that challenges you, that perspective that's a little bit different from you, maybe it's someone on a career path that is slightly different from yours, or they have a little bit more experience than you have, find your challengers. Those folks have really helped me develop into my best, I would say, professional self. And of course, being open to gaining experience, perspectives, feedback, and immersing yourself in discomfort. This is another thing, like a challenge network can be really tough to engage with at first, but finding those spaces for discomfort within reason, of course safely is really key, I think, for growing in your skill sets, for stepping outside of your potential, for growing into something new and developing a new skill or passion, or really just place of thriving that you might not even know about yet. Something for me that happened this year was my colleague, our data analyst in our office, noticed that I was talking a little bit about wanting to be more comfortable with data. In my role right now, and just in my past experience, that hasn't been a reality for me. And while I love data, it is a little scary for me. It's scary in the sense that as a professional, I don't know exactly how to visualize it, manipulate it, understand it in the ways that make sense for my industry. So he overheard me chatting about that, and he invited me onto a project to make a Power BI dashboard for the utilization of one of our software for career development. And I will say that was the most discomfort I have been in such a long time. I would be staring at this dashboard, trying to understand what he was telling me when we would meet to go over the project and trying to implement it on my own. I had to get creative and resourceful. I had to use guides that I had never experienced or used before. I was using a whole new platform, a whole new software, Power BI, totally new to me. But that discomfort opened me up to be able to pull workshop data for my team and help them visualize it. I was able to communicate results from data that I hadn't been able to before. That is one instance and one example, and I'm sure that all of y'all on this call have those experiences of discomfort, and I encourage you to continue to lean into them, because I think that they can be some of the most groundbreaking, helpful advancements as you grow in your professional self. And when we think about personal and professional growth action steps, right? How do we action this? What does this actually look like in practice? It includes self-awareness and reflection, as I've been chatting about here. It includes reflecting on our career goals, right? Am I staying true to myself, who I am, and my values in the world of work? Am I embracing opportunities for continuous learning, right? Am I being challenged? Am I being put in a place of discomfort? Communicating effectively and confidently. I know for me, it was not the most confident that I would show up in the world of work, especially when I started. I remember starting my teaching position and feeling pretty inferior, pretty unexperienced, not really used to the environment of just working a 9 to 5, truly. But that confidence grew over time. And I now know that when I communicate, if I'm communicating confidently, I'm probably getting my message across better. I am feeling more true to my values and the things that I bring to the table. I'm asserting that value. And I think it's easier for folks to see that value and what it brings to the table. Honing a growth mindset while also giving yourself grace throughout periods, again, of discomfort, of being challenged, of being confronted, of being questioned. Having that growth mindset, but also give yourself grace, because this is a continuous process. It does not start and stop or end or complete at a certain point in time. It should be ever going, ever changing. Maintaining balance in work and life, right? We are only our best professional selves when we are working appropriately, not working overly or too much or way beyond our means or our capacity. And acting on your action plan, right? Work toward achieving your own SMART goals that you're setting with your supervisor, on your own, however it may be. Acting on those is really important. It is one thing to plan or to plan to achieve goals. It is a whole other thing to take active steps to act on them and track that progress, right? It can feel really insurmountable sometimes to reach a goal that feels so out of reach. But if we track that progress and we work smartly, those things can really fall into place. So let's reflect together in the spirit of professional development, growing our professional selves. What is one way that you will commit to personal or professional development in the next 30 days? What is one actionable thing that you can do toward your personal or professional development? And if you're feeling willing, share that in the Q&A, because I would love to hear from y'all what you're thinking about, and hopefully you can gain inspiration from one another. What is one way that you will commit to personal or professional growth in the next 30 days? What is one thing that you can do? Thank you, Pat. I appreciate that. Someone said to me on Tuesday, I gave a workshop to a group of students in a technology fellowship. And one of the ways that he was working on developing his professional self, because we talked a lot about these concepts then, was just by attending events, right? Going to workshops, lectures, opportunities where someone is sharing an idea, where they get to hear a new perspective. So I love that, Pat. Thank you for that kindness. And that is something that I also hope to continue doing, just attending events, opportunities to learn. Mark is mentioning identifying my challenge network. Yes, Mark, I would love to chat with you about that. It is an incredible process with incredible rewards. And I hope that that is a period of exploration and growth for you, and really leaning into those you trust. Also playing with ChatGPT. Yes, when I was on my Power BI journey, I was on ChatGPT quite a lot, asking it many, many questions, trying to get the answers that I was hoping for. Attending AI compliance training, absolutely, Yolanda. I think AI ethics and usage and just utilization within our workplace, within our lives as a whole, is such a hot topic and something that we all need to be attuned to. We were having conversations with our university provost yesterday about AI utilization and being competent in generative AI, and how students can show that on their resumes, how our professionals can show that in their career skill sets and tools. Very, very interesting topic. And so thank you all for sharing some of those ideas, and I hope you take inspiration from one another. Really, really important to set those goals, set those steps, and action them. When we think about our professional selves, right, we often think about the concept of professionalism, showing up to the workplace. And when I think about my professional self, I also think about leading with authenticity, entering a space as my true self, authentically, uninterrupted, without hesitation or reservation. Sometimes that is not always possible when concepts of antiquated professionalism are ingrained in a workplace. And so I wanted to bring this up. I know this is related to what we're chatting about today, but it is something that pervades all of our spaces that we're in, no matter where we are. And when we don't address the effects of professionalism, of historical standards, these are some of the things that we end up with and that affect all of us. We see Western standards being the only or the main way of valuing a person in the workplace, of conducting a workplace, of navigating a space. We see that often. We see checkbox hiring. Oftentimes, this is coined as diversity hire, right? We see this happening a lot. It invades so many workplaces and spaces, and a lot of places will think about recruitment and not retention and persistence and nurturing an employee. So when we don't address professionalism and its roots in historical connotations and history, these are some of the things that happen. We also see employee discrimination, lack of promotions and advancement. We see implicit bias wreaking havoc across workplaces and relationships in those workplaces. We see workplace standards around language usage, timeliness, punctuality, dress, right? How we physically show up and look in the workplace. We see privileging in hiring processes. We see this very, very often, right? So I wanted to share this because when we think about our professional selves, it also leans into professionalism and how folks are showing up in the workplace. And so if we don't work to help counter some of those narratives, well, we're left with instances of these negative effects of historical professionalism. And of course, working intergenerationally, working with others in that construct of professionalism, showing up to the workplace in many different formats and ways. These are the folks that we're working with. These are the generations that are in the workplace right now. I thought this was a helpful visual to help break down mainly the timeline. I wanted us to see, these 5 generations that are working together right now and sort of what the common characteristics of these generations are. And I do want to point out the importance of not limiting a generation or not solely characterizing a generation based on a specific trait, based on a specific, maybe common characteristic. It is very easy to generalize. And when we get to a point of generalizing, things that are negative can happen. We can only refer, where we might only refer to millennials as, the only folks who value a deeper purpose in their work, which is simply not true and not the reality. So I wanted to paint this little visual here so we can understand the 5 generations that we're working with today. We have the silent generation, we have baby boomers, we have Gen X, we have millennials or Gen Y, and we have Gen Z, our youngest professionals. And so with those 5 generations working together, right, we want to move from multi-generational, just kind of coexisting, co-working together, to intergenerational, right? Communicating, collaborating, valuing one another, supporting each other, being in a really collaborative space together. We want to go from multi-generational to intergenerational. So when we don't address intergenerational collaboration and working together, which is simply a reality of the world of work today, we encounter age bias. We can encounter dysfunctional team dynamics. We encounter a negative impact on job attitudes and overall job satisfaction. And we can encounter lower job performance, right? If we don't address these differences and qualities that make us who we are and help us highlight our value, get through the world of work, we encounter some of these problems. And this is something that we don't want to be seeing in any workplace as we navigate it together. When we think about collaborating intergenerationally, this is some of the positive impact of having an intergenerational workforce. When we work intergenerationally, we create a significant competitive advantage by generating a stronger pipeline of talent, right? When we are engaging our early career professionals in an intergenerational workplace in positions that can move toward advancement, we have a great pipeline of talent right there. We improve workforce continuity and stability, and we assist in the retention of knowledge and key skill sets. We can see this through mentoring, through the sharing of ideas, through effective communication. Having an intergenerational workforce is truly a gift, not a hindrance to productivity or the world of work as we know it. Corporate leaders understand the importance of multi-generational workforces, those collaborative spaces with many different generations involved, but only 6% feel that they are equipped to lead them effectively. And that is a huge problem. The Society of Human Resource Management also cites that only 9% of workplaces' DEI training addresses age. There is diversity of age in the workplace, and it should be addressed and catered to in a way that helps every single person on a team in the workplace feel valued and know that they are supported. So this is really, really key as we continue to see a growing workforce in a variety of ways. So how can employers work toward cultivating that strong intergenerational workplace? Conversations, training, speaking engagements, any other type of opportunity or activity that helps dismantle generational stereotypes, a common one being that Gen Z doesn't want to work, right? That's simply not true. So having those conversations that help debunk some of those myths or thoughts or stereotypes are really important to helping us understand one another and work effectively together. Encouraging curiosity while discouraging judgment is also really important and pivotal to creating that strong collaborative workspace. highlighting examples of positive intergenerational collaboration, especially if those existing models are already in place at that workplace. Very, very important. And emphasizing shared mission and purpose of work is also really key to helping everyone work toward a common positive goal. This helps us all stay aligned, helps us all stay on track, and know that we are working together toward that common goal. It will increase stronger collaboration and relationship building. And when we think about the importance of diversity for innovation, we know the data shows us that inclusive teams perform better. Intergenerational workplaces, teams that have a diverse pipeline of talent, a diverse pool of talent, perform better. Our various perspectives allow us to reach broader audiences and approach a strategy, topic, idea, project from a ton of different angles. When we don't have diverse leadership, when we are not employing folks of different backgrounds, of different races, ethnicities, genders, cultures, women are 20% less likely than straight white men to win endorsement for their ideas. People of color are 24% less likely, and LGBTQ folks are 21% less likely, right? Without diverse leadership, without leadership that represents the workforce that's being employed, these are the kinds of things that are negatively impacted and that don't improve or progress. Companies with above average diversity produced a greater proportion of revenue from innovation, 45% of total revenue, than from companies with below average diversity, according to a Boston Consulting Group survey. So we know, right? The proof is in the output, the proof is in the numbers, the proof is in workplace satisfaction, opportunities for growth, inclusive teams, those teams that prioritize diverse teams, intergenerational teams perform better. Companies are recognizing that, but we can also contribute to that conversation and helping our supervisors, our colleagues understand the importance of getting along and supporting everyone in their place at our workplaces. When it comes to building those strong workplace relationships, right, with someone who's just joined your team, or if you're a new member on that team, there can be a lot of stress and anxiety around building those strong workplace relationships. I didn't realize how impactful my workplace relationships were going to be on me and my satisfaction at my job, but also how my employer and my supervisor is viewing my working relationships. On most performance reviews, relationship building is a factor that you are evaluated on. It is important to be a collaborator, a team player, and a warm person, staff member in your space. So how do we go about building those workplace relationships? Some ways that that can get started is displaying genuine interest and care toward your colleagues, finding common ground and affinity. Oftentimes, a way to do this is through employee resource groups, different clubs or activities at your workplace, anywhere where there is opportunity for coming together in ways that reflect your background, interests, identity. Establishing trust, care, and respect through conversation, understanding, and inquiry, right? It is great to converse. It is so important to listen, to understand, and to stay curious and ask questions when you're not sure or you want to get to know someone better or to learn more. And when we take those steps to foster those strong workplace relationships, we see really, really amazing results, right? We see stronger collaboration and innovation and a valuing of all ideas. We see support, we see allyship, we see advocacy, we see folks speaking up and being vocal about what's important to not only them, but their colleagues around them. We see improved results, and I put results in quotations because organizations have different bottom lines, right? So whether that is revenue generation, whether it's client satisfaction, whether it is something else entirely, we will see improved results. And we also see workplace well-being and personal fulfillment, right? There is nothing better, I think, than being able to walk into work and know that your colleagues are supporting you, that they are going to be happy to see you, that they can chat with you about the work that they're doing. If they have a question, if they have a struggle, they can share a little bit about their personal lives to the degree that they're comfortable. That is so, so important, and something that has made the place that I work feel really, really special to me. Because when the work gets hard, the student appointments really pile up, we are under-resourced, or we're feeling a challenge in some way, the relationships and the colleagues that I have help make it better and remind us of our why and our shared purpose. We're in it together. And so circling back on creating that culture of belonging, right? Thinking about a culture where everyone feels included, everyone knows that they are supported, everyone feels as though they belong. This comes from demonstrating that genuine interest in your colleagues, right? Getting to know each other, helping each other fit in through awareness and care. It also comes from advocacy and being an effective ally. It's challenging antiquated policies that could cause harm, right? If there is a dress code in your workplace or a policy that feels like it is discriminatory or harboring to maybe a colleague that you work with, or someone has expressed that something written is just not aligning with their values or could be harming them, try to have conversations that can support them and speak up, whether that's going to HR, an ombuds organization, speaking with your supervisor if you feel comfortable. Challenging those policies, advocating is super, super important to creating that culture of belonging. Sharing feedback, right? Protect yourself and your position in the process, of course. So if that feedback needs to be shared with a third-party organization, HR, if it can be shared with your supervisor, maybe a group of colleagues to start, that is really, really important as well for raising the things that need to happen, that need to take place to create that culture of belonging. And openly discussing ways of working, collaborating, conversing, receiving feedback that work for you helps encourage your colleagues to do the same, and also creates that really strong collaborative culture. This is something that I started doing about 2 years ago at my workplace, and I encouraged my colleagues to do the same. And I learned so much about colleagues that I had been working with for months that I had absolutely no idea about. And so this is what I did, right? I introduced a working with document. I wanted my colleagues to know, what's it like to work with Ange, right? How is she in the workplace? How can we best communicate with her, collaborate with her? What is something that she really prefers when it comes to workplace learning and productivity versus things that just don't quite work for her? So this is a quick snapshot of what my colleagues get to see when it comes to working with Ange, right? They get to see my personal working style preferences. They know that I thrive off timelines, deadlines, and project goals, right? I need that end post, that goal post in place so I can be productive. They know that I'm an observer, that I take time to process information. They know that I learn by seeing and doing. Another piece that's not in this screen grab here is that I take my lunch break seriously. I need that time in the midday to recharge, whether that is through eating my lunch in my office, going for a walk along the Charles River, grabbing a coffee with a colleague, right? They know that. They really know that. And this can be a little bit uncomfy or vulnerable at first. So maybe start with your supervisor, see how you could encourage these conversations to take place, and then go for it. And this helped my colleagues feel comfortable doing it as well. I thought it would be nice as well if we could all share one aspect about working with you in particular in the chat. This will help it feel easier to do in your own workplace. When you're back with your colleagues after this lunch and learn or at another point in time, what's something that's important for folks to know about you when it comes to working with you? What is something key to your work style or work preferences that you would want your colleagues to know so that they can know you better, so that you can work better, more collaboratively, conversationally? What is one thing? What's important for folks to know about you? when it comes to working with you. And I know this can feel a little uncomfy, but this is a safe space to be able to do this. I think one more thing that's important for folks to know about me is that I am really keen on having a preview or a heads up or an agenda, something prior, like a little bit of information prior to an important meeting, things like that. I like a heads up. I like some pre-work. I need to be able to think a little bit before going into something. So that's also important about me. Open communication is incredibly important to me. Yes, Mark, I totally align with that. Attention to detail, and it can be challenging for me to bring mistakes to the attention of others without sounding too critical. Absolutely, yes. And I love that this one acknowledges a strength and also an area for just better self-awareness, right? And approaching the colleagues that we work with. Visual learner, yes. Needing to walk through steps when learning a process, absolutely. Right, so these are all things that I hope y'all share with your colleagues, that you make known and true about yourself, because it will only improve your working relationships and the output that you are able to bring to your teams, that value that you're able to bring forward. Thank you for engaging in that. And when it comes to entering the world of work, being that competent professional, entering into a space that might be new, right, that we might not have a lived experience of yet, that could be totally, completely foreign to us. Try to bring some of that confidence and share your value. Let your team know what you are great at, and don't be ashamed about it. Keep track of your achievements, your outcomes, your feedback, any kudos you receive, kind words, opportunities for growth, you name it, keep a catalog of it. It will help inform your goals. It will help you keep on track toward building your greatest professional self. Be curious, embrace those opportunities that make you uncomfortable, of course, within reason, but find those ways and spaces that challenge you in a really great constructive way. Continue to build and bolster that network. One of my very, very trusted professors always reminds me that your network is your net worth, right? The people who make up your corner in your circle are the folks that really help you assert your value, that provide value to you in return. So build that network and build a strong, trusted one. And align your values and interests with your goals, right? We are not our full authentic selves if we are not centering our values, our interests, our personality, the things that are important to us with the goals that we set for ourselves. So be mindful of that, keep those close. And I wanted to quickly share, I know we are coming a little short on our time here, an example of an inclusive, diverse workplace and what this can look like. Accenture is always topping the charts, I'm telling you, when it comes to rankings for diverse, inclusive, equitable workplaces, right? Workplaces that promote a really strong culture of belonging and that truly value their employees to the core. Here's a little bit of data on the left-hand side about Accenture's workplace makeup, right? Who is working there? 51% of the workforce are minorities. Almost 42% of their executives are minorities. 38% is women. And about 32% of their executives are women. 4.2% of their workplace is disabled. Right? And their employee networks, which are their employee resource groups, serve affinity and identity groups. And this is their wheel, I suppose, when it comes to creating a culture of belonging and sort of what centering belonging looks like for Accenture. This is a workplace culture that I would love to be a part of. And there are other great examples of workplaces that function like this as well. Accenture is just one example of so many workplaces that are taking the time, the money, and the effort to truly invest in creating that culture of belonging, creating a culture of compassion and care for their intergenerational workforce. This is just one example, and I wanted to show you what it can look like. And in the spirit of reflecting, because I love reflecting and I think it's an incredible way to be self-aware, but also prepared, is just thinking about our organizations now, right? We've done a lot of thinking about ourselves, but let's think about our organizations and our place in the world of work. We don't need to answer these here today, but maybe this is something that you can take with you after this lunch and learn. Take it back to your team, think about it on your own. What current practices does your organization have in place to promote intergenerational collaboration and a culture of belonging? How can you actively participate in or lead initiatives that promote a strong culture of belonging? And what are some ways that you are an effective intergenerational collaborator? And what are some opportunities for growth? I'm going to be thinking on these as well because there are always ways that we can improve, revisit, rethink, and also honor ourselves and reward ourselves for the really incredible work that we do. And so with that, I thank you so much for spending some time with me as we chatted about navigating the intergenerational workplace, creating that culture of care and belonging. And I hope that you will stay connected with me because I would love to be a part of your network, to chat with you offline, to chat with you more about these conversations, and to just be in community with you. So there is my email, my LinkedIn, my TikTok if you're interested in that sort of content. And I am so grateful to Champlain's Alumni Relations Office for helping me organize this and to be a part of such an incredible community and conversation today. Thank you so, so much. And I'm looking in the Q&A right now just to make sure that there are any questions. What stagnant professionalism is organizations not budgeting for change to accommodate new ideas to grow both old and new? Yeah, Yolanda, I think you're saying in response to chatting about professionalism, right, is when organizations don't account for change, don't budget for it, don't recognize it to accommodate new ideas, we're stifled, right? New things can't happen, new ideas cannot be enacted on. Both old ones that may have been brought up, ideas for innovation that have been stifled, and new bright ideas, right? When we're entrenched in that standard of professionalism, sometimes change can't happen. And so I love that you raised that. It is an important consideration to have. And I, am hopeful that more employers continue to move in the direction of challenging those antiquated narratives of professionalism.
I've also enabled everyone's ability to unmute. So if anyone would prefer to speak their question or their comment, to spark any discussion, feel free to do that or drop in the chat, whichever you prefer.
Yes, please. What questions do you have? Thank you for, again, being here today. This was so fun to be in community with y'all, and I'm so inspired by the ideas that you were able to share in the chat, and I hope you took some inspiration from others as well. This was very, very fun. And a huge thank you to Brianna and Heidi and the team for organizing these events for alumni, faculty, and staff. This is an incredible learning space and community space. So thank you all.
I have a question about, I know you kind of touched on this a little bit, but the experience of bringing up the working with document, which I think seems like a really great tool.
Yes.
Was that something, how did you kind of start to bring that into your workspace?
Yeah, thank you for asking, Brianna. It was an inspiration that I took from a career consulting company that I'd been following for a little while, and they had brought this conversation up, and I thought to myself, I want to actualize this, right? I want a place where I can see the history, I can share it physically, I can have it on record, and I can encourage my team to do the same. And so for me personally, it started with approaching the idea with my current executive director, who as a director was very, very positive about collaboration, about transparency, about knowing one another really well. So she was so on board. I feel very lucky and grateful to have had that kind of support with that document. I know not every manager or workplace might be supportive of it. And so if that's a situation for anybody on this call, I would encourage you to bring up that conversation, that working with document, with your trusted workplace colleagues, allies, the people in your workspace who you feel a strong relationship with. That can be a great starting place. Maybe there are other relationships that can be utilized there. So that's where I would maybe start. But I started at the leadership level, and honestly, that influence and support, because she then kind of shared it with the team and said, hey, everyone, Ange brought this idea up. I would love if we could engage in it. Really, really helped. Her influence and support was, for me, fundamental in helping that culture of belonging really get established. And I will be sharing that out, or sharing it with Brianna anyway, to be able to send with all of y'all a template to kind of get that started. Any other questions, comments, ideas?
I think there was so much where wheels are turning, the processes are going. They're really great.
Would love to do a half day on this, right? I feel like we could talk about these things for so long, but I am very, very grateful for the hour in this space with you all.
I'd also highly recommend, if you were interested in any of the pieces that were talked about, check out Anna's LinkedIn. She has content that really like dives deeper into each of those components. I know there's only so much that we could really talk about in 45 minutes, but if there was a piece that was talked about that you're like, I want to learn more about that, chances are that she's already made a LinkedIn post or an article that talks to it more. I highly recommend checking that out. Personally, it's been a space that I've learned a lot. And also just seeing some of the other voices on LinkedIn that talk about these ideas. Then the algorithm starts to learn you and you start getting hit with all the content about it. It's great. Use that algorithm to your benefit. But if no one else has any other questions, 2 minutes back to everyone's day. I wanted to thank everyone again for joining us. You'll be receiving an email with a recording of today's session, the slide deck and materials that Ange has for us to share, and as well as a feedback form. I really encourage everyone to fill that out. It helps us make sure we're continuing to bring value with these sessions and improve on these as we go. Looks like we're getting some thank yous in the Q&A. Thank you so much. We're so glad to have you join us. And thank you one last time, Ange, for coming here today.
Thank you. Thank yous to all of you. Thank you, Brianna, for reaching out to me and creating this space for this to happen. This was so fun, and I look forward to staying connected with folks on LinkedIn and elsewhere. Thank you so much again.